This generation of consoles has kind of sucked. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Harrison, and we're talking about a mixture of PlayStation and how I feel like if they were to kind of adapt Nintendo's overall strategy in releasing their games, that they could probably do a lot better for themselves. And that's not to say that PlayStation isn't doing well, but times in gaming are changing what feels like pretty drastically. Now we're going to talk about the report. This comes from I'll pull it up here real quick for you guys. Over here on Twitter, Takashi Mochizuki, I probably butchered that. He says that Sony says PS5 hardware sales October through December, so their kind of their holiday quarter, fell short of its plan for 25 million sales goal. Their current fiscal year's PS5 sales goals are dropped from 21 from 25. PS5 is entering its latter stage of life cycle. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, we're coming into, they launched in 2020, so we're coming into the 4 years, and typically consoles generally last about 5 to 7 years, maybe. It just kind of depends. So for it entering its latter stage, I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean we're getting a PS6 next year. It just means we're on the other half of the overall life cycle for the PlayStation. So that may be taken out of context a little bit by a lot of people. So just keep that in mind. And then PS5 hardware sales are going to be slowing down. And look, that makes a lot of sense. Look at the output that PlayStation has had, since they have launched. We initially, when PS5 initially came out, Sony that said themselves that they believe in, they don't believe in kind of console generation, or they believe in console generations, and we had a lot of crossover between PS4 games and PS5 games. I mean, look at God of War. You could play that on the PS4 and also play on the PS5 with updated graphics and frame rate and all that good stuff. But look at their output that they've had. I mean, they've really had 1 to 2 maybe first party exclusives since they launched, which is insane. I mean, they had God of War, then they had Returnal. They did have Ratchet and Clank as well, and then Spider-Man was kind of I think it was the first party exclusive game to come out on PS5 that wasn't also on PS4, which is kind of insane considering that game came out in 2023. So I really think that, obviously this isn't necessarily doom and gloom for PlayStation, right? They're still going to sell, millions and millions of consoles. I don't think the PS5 at this point is going to do nearly as well as the PS4. I think Sony going into this generation really kind of rode the back of the PS4, and it makes sense. I mean, the PS4 was still selling incredibly well, but there just hasn't been the games to support it, And again, they've had a couple, and we're not talking about Xbox here, because Xbox is they're already in their own situation, and they also haven't had a lot of games either. So kind of right, going from the previous generation, the Xbox One was that generation was not great for Xbox, so the hype was not there for the Xbox Series X and S. The hype was there for PS4 going into PS5, which is why it sold so incredibly well. But yeah, PlayStation just needs more games, and as we know, PlayStation loves their big AAA, first party games that take an incredibly long time to make and are incredibly expensive. I mean, Spider-Man costing an estimated $200 to $300 million. I'm sure The Last of Us Part 2, on the PS4 was probably pretty expensive as well. So for the AAA game space, I feel like is coming, not necessarily yet, but coming to a crash point. These games are just way too expensive to make, take way too long. I mean, it's just, I don't think it's sustainable. And I know, PlayStation had the initiative of those 12 games that they were talking about, the free to play or live service games. We just got Foam Stars, which is, I think it's free on PlayStation Plus, but will be $30 after that. Who knows if people are going to continue to play that game, in the long run? I have no idea. I know that they kind of cut that in half from this 12 to maybe 6 live service games. They canceled, the Factions, Last of Us multiplayer game. So they're trying to figure it out. And I think they need to adopt the Nintendo model. Nintendo really for the longest time has kind of destroyed Xbox and PlayStation with their first party games. I mean, Nintendo usually has like 5 or 6 a year, which is insane. I mean, last year they had Pikmin 4, Tears of the Kingdom. They had, Mario Wonder, RPG, Super Mario RPG remake. They had Fire Emblem. They had the Bayonetta game, which was, a smaller game. But my point is they have their really big AAA games like Tears of the Kingdom, but throughout the year they have a lot of like smaller games, maybe AA kind of games where they probably don't cost that much to make, but still sell millions and millions of copies. And I think PlayStation really needs to adopt that model because another report came out that, and I don't know if this is from PlayStation itself, so forgive me, but they're not planned on having any first party games in 2024 at all. That is insane considering we got one last year with Spider-Man 2. So, we know they've got games in the work. They're Death Stranding 2, the Wolverine game. So we know there's games coming, but for them to not have any in 2024 is absolutely insane. And if I was a PlayStation only consumer, I would be kind of upset with that information because we're trying to heavily rely on third party, which third party usually does carry these consoles anyways. But for PlayStation to have nothing in 2024 is crazy, and Nintendo usually just has. And then this isn't me like riding Nintendo, their coattails or anything like that. I do love Nintendo, and they are my preferred platform of choice. I just love all their games for the most part. But they've been so sustainable with the Switch. I mean, we're going into, the seventh year of the, it's about to be the 7th year anniversary for the Switch, going into this 8th year, and games are still selling like crazy. The Switch has obviously had a decline in sales, but that's still selling, pretty well for its 7th year in. So I don't know. I think specifically PlayStation right now, obviously we don't know what Xbox's future strategy is going, we're going to know that tomorrow, but I think PlayStation needs to figure something out and maybe follow the Nintendo model, because Nintendo just has it figured out right now with having pretty large releases almost every single month. And we know these games probably aren't costing, hundreds of $1 million to produce. And now I'm sure, maybe Tears of the Kingdom might have, but we'll probably never know that information. But for the smaller stuff like the RPG remake, Mario Wonder didn't even have a timeline, a time frame to be done. They just let the developers just make the game, and when it's done, it's done. And that game was really great. Tears of the Kingdom, was done in 2022, and they let the developers, kind of sit on it for a year and just squash out bugs and stuff and like that. And that was obviously for the better. So Nintendo's got it figured out, which is why I'm so excited for the Switch 2 to see what that thing looks like. But yeah, Nintendo has the model figured out for gaming, and I think PlayStation needs to adapt. Otherwise, again, the PlayStation is not going anywhere, and it's going to sell millions and millions of copies before all things are said and done. But they need to figure something out, because having a year gap for your first party games is quite frankly unacceptable, in my opinion. I know these games are getting bigger and bigger and more expensive to make and take longer to make, but we've got to fill out the calendar year with maybe some smaller, really fun titles. You know, use your existing IPs, but have smaller stuff. Like have a smaller Last of Us story, or maybe a smaller God of War thing, or, you know, something like that to get people excited. But having to wait again over a year for the next first party game is crazy. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I insane for thinking that that PlayStation should follow Nintendo's model? Very curious to see what you guys say and having a conversation. Yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll let YouTube algorithm pick one of my videos below for you guys to watch. Give it a click, and I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.